Is it important from the Prime Minister's perspective to show by his presence as well as his actions that he's listening to people's pain when it comes to cost of living? Because it is a real, as you know, it is a real issue right now for many Australians.
Well, this is front and centre for the Albanese government. This week, starting yesterday, every single Australian PAYG taxpayer gets a tax cut, for 90% of them, bigger than they would have otherwise got under the previous government. There are wage increases that have flowed through the economy for middle and low income earners this week. The government's energy price relief starts this week. This is a big moment as we wrestle with the issues of inflation and the cost of living. We have made very significant progress from inflation with a 6 in front of it to where we are now. There is still a bit of work to go. That is the truth. There is still a bit of work to go, but Australians can see what we're doing. We are going to keep listening. We are going to keep engaging. We have delivered important cost of living relief this week. It will make a big difference to ordinary Australians.
It is something you wanted the focus to be on. It might be front and centre in terms of where you want things to be. Unfortunately, it hasn't, from your perspective, it hasn't been front and centre in the political debate. That's been distracted by one of your Senate colleagues.
Well, let me come to that in a second, but just
suspended Senate colleagues.
Let me just make the point that for most Australians, it is front and centre. For the government, it is front and centre. Now, understand that here, the focus will move around a bit and people respond to events. But in terms of the issues that are shaping the lives of ordinary Australians, their aspirations for good jobs, decent incomes, looking after their families, that is where the government's priority is.
The Prime Minister apparently had unanimous endorsement in the caucus for the way he's responded to the issues relating to senator payment?
Well, I'm reluctant to talk about what actually happens inside the caucus. I know there's been a briefing and that your accounting of that is absolutely consistent with the briefing. But there is very strong support across the caucus for the approach that the Prime Minister's taken. Some restraint, but acknowledging that Senator Payman has put herself outside the caucus. Now, these principles of caucus solidarity and collective discipline are very important to Labor because they're about how we achieve what we achieve. We can do the difficult things in government, make the big achievements on behalf of Australians, whether it's Medicare or the NDIS, some of the more challenging issues. You think about the 80s and 90s, we do because we're there together to look after each other and do the big things.
Would you like to see her return to the caucus?
Of course. I think every one of our colleagues is united in this.
She says she's been exiled.
Well, look, all I can say is what I've observed in the Senate. And of course, on one hand, we absolutely depend upon those principles of collective discipline to do the challenging things. And in the Senate, with a crossbench that votes for or against the government's legislation and our program, it's important that we all look after each other and act collectively to achieve the big things.
Have your colleagues been reaching out to her, though?
Let me just make this point. Secondly, we also have to be kind to each other. And I have observed, and I know in my own approach to this, everybody is being kind and friendly and understands that Senator Payman has found herself in a difficult position and have got sympathy with that. She has said that she'll take this week to reflect on where she's at.
Do you have hope? Do you hope? I mean,
yeah.
Do you have optimism that this will resolve in her returning? Because if not, you could have a member of the crossbench now voted under the Labor ticket, but now a member of the crossbench out to 2028.
Well, we've seen this week that there's as Senator Payman reflects on her position and is not contributing in voting terms in the Senate, that does have an impact on the numbers in the Senate. And it does mean the big things that we've got to achieve, future made in Australia, the net zero economy, rebuilding manufacturing, the big changes, the National Disability Insurance Scheme, those are challenges. We've got to do that together. I wish she was there voting with us this week. She will be welcome back when she accepts the collective discipline of the caucus. In the meantime, it's not inconsistent with that. for Labor senators to be kind to each other and to make space for Senator Payman to work through those issues.
Senator Tim Ayres, Assistant Trade Minister, thanks. Appreciate
Thank you.
it.